you say that asking customers what they want is stupid. Okay, and the way I like to think about it is like if you were to ask your kid what they want to eat for dinner, they're probably going to say chips, burgers, fries, gummy bears, all on top of the pizza. But as a parent or a guardian or whatever, if you knew the successful outcome for the child, the need to grow up big and strong, the solution that you would deliver would be very, very different than if you were to just give them what they say that they want. But analogy wise, yeah, that's interesting, everything. But is there a scientific way, like a psychological way to explain why customers aren't particularly good at really telling people what they want, and why it is a better way for companies to try and understand their customers in different ways, to understand their needs and successful outcomes?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'll bring it back to what I started with in terms of we don't have direct access to our our emotions necessarily and our motivations. We don't, and then we as people going around the world don't spend a lot of time thinking about it. As researchers or as marketers, we think about other people all the time, like what's going to make them do this, but we as people going around, we don't. So we haven't spent time, asking ourselves this. I'll give you one example of it was done with handsets, right, of phone handsets. If you did a focus group and say, what do you value in a handset? Would you, for example, say, I would value heavier handsets versus lighter? What do you think you're going to say?
You'd imagine people would say lighter.
Exactly. So that's probably would be the case. But what instead of asking that question, they did an experiment where they had dozens and dozens of different handsets on a table, and each varied by different things, features, whether they're flip phone or just like the bar, weight and material they're made of, and all of that. And your task was not to say why I like this, but to pick up two at a time, play around with them, and say I like this one. And the
Mm-hmm.
researcher records it over and over and over. And then the researcher did the math of what drove the decision because they knew what the differences were. And one of the insights was that people preferred heavier handsets.
Ah.
And then you have to now think about, and for example, Apple, I mean, they're substantial, right? Because it may feel like the lighter one is made out of plastic, feels cheap, for example, right?
Yeah.
But there's something about that. But you don't ask the person that. So that's an example of why it's important to really understand people, and it's not as simple as just asking them. And the other thing is, you can understand the context, and you can understand many other parts that a person, when you interview them, for example, may not think about at that point.